Yes, hello. We are with a Smarter Service Talk this time with Paul Marsden, maybe already online friend since we do that type of interviews now for 3 years. Paul is a psychologist and working also for Syzygy. Hello, Paul.
Hello there.
Uh, Paul, you just you just published a series of presentation on SlideShare where you put the psychologist lens to some questions which people should address in the marketing department. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I think as a psychologist, we see things sometimes slightly differently. You know, we put on our sort of psycho goggles, and it's just a different perspective. It's not necessarily a better or a right perspective, but it's a different way of seeing things. And I think sometimes in the world of technology, we get caught up with bright, shiny objects, new fashions or fads, and psychology sort of simplifies things, and it takes you back to the basics of what really motivates people, why we do what we do. And sometimes that it can be useful when you're seeing all these amazing things you can do with digital technology. Sometimes bringing it back to humans is a good thing.
Yeah. So I think always it's good to talk to psychologists to get that outside-in perspective. Many people talk about. So actually, what we are going to do today is talk about the psychology of the connected customer and how to address that type of customer. Interesting enough, in Germany there's an index published by a famous research company, and they just said that the type of customers who are living truly on the mobile is now rising from 3% to 6%, which is doublification, or how do you call it? Interesting. So how to address that type of let's call it lead user? That's the topic for today.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So to start off, you say problem solving is so critical to the innovation success. So why is it so?
Well, I think the key insight, you know, if you only ever learn one thing in psychology, is that this kind of 1.5 kilo of grey matter that we're sort of carrying around in our bodies, our brains, it evolved for just one purpose, and that is to solve problems. If we didn't have any problems to solve, we wouldn't need a brain. We could just be automatically interacting with the environment like robots. Our brains evolved to solve problems. And our consciousness awareness evolved in order to predict problems, see problems, and deal with problems. So that the brain is a problem-solving device. What that means in practical terms for the connected customer or any customer, I mean, I would suggest that, you know, trying to do typologies of consumers is quite tough. And underneath the surface, people are ultimately the same, and we all have a problem-solving brain. And if you want to get that brain's attention, and you want that brain to choose you rather than choose somebody else, you need to solve their problem, because that's what the brain is. And there's I would say sort of innovators should have this little marine animal as their mascot. It's something that they love. It's called a sea squirt, and the sea squirt illustrates perfectly the importance of problems to people and brains and animals and life in general. Because the sea squirt just has one problem in life, and that problem is to find a home. And it swims around, it's a tiny little thing, swims around and tries to find a rock that it can sit on and make its own home. And when it actually solves that problem and finds, hey, that's the rock for me, it settles down and does something rather weird. It eats its own brain. The sea squirt then eats its own brain because it doesn't have any more problems to solve. It's solved its life's problems. And so without any problems to solve, it eats its brain. And so without a problem, we don't need brains. And what that means for us as innovators is that rather than be focused on benefits or technology or even needs, the primary focus for digital innovators should be solving people's problem. And ideally, in a commercial world, at a problem. Solving people's problems at a profit should be the motivate, should be the goal of digital innovation, because that's what our brains do. If you want to attack brains, you need to solve problems.
Okay, so now you say actually there are three things you have to think of when you try to figure out the problems. The one thing is achievement, the other power, and the next is affiliation. So maybe you can illustrate more what you mean by that.
Yeah, so we got practical problems. So, if I want to get online or if I want to buy something online, I'll find a service online that will solve my problem. But not all problems are what people call functional or practical problems. As individuals, we have hardwired emotions. We have emotional problems, or problems more of feeling, things that are not necessarily practical. So when I do something, positive, I get a reward for it. So I do something successful, I get an emotional rush, a sort of hormonal rush, saying, "Hey, that's good job, you've done well." And people, because we are problem solvers, when we solve problems, we need to have this sense of achievement. Hey, I've solved a problem. And so this sense of achievement from an emotional perspective is super important, and it's one of three things that psychologists have identified that are emotional motivators, quite apart from this gadget does this service does this website does that. Quite apart from the functional, practical things, there are three big psychological needs that we have that have all evolved because of our problem-solving brain. One is achievement, and people have a problem if they don't feel a sense of achievement. If they're investing in a technology or investing in a person, a partner, and they're not getting any positive feedback, we actually get depressed because our brains are hardwired to strive for wanting achievement, to succeed. So success is what people look for in terms of the sense of achievement. And they also, in order to achieve that success, we need something, we need power. We need power to be in control of our environments and what we do. And so people have this need to feel in control, to have power. And when you disempower people, and this goes back to sort of Marxist alienation, people don't feel in control of the people, process, product, we feel alienated and we get depressed. And so people need to feel in control. So technology that empowers people, that gives them a sense of achievement, is really, really important. And then finally, the third thing that is super important is that we evolved as social creatures. When we solve problems, smart people solve problems together, because when we solve problems together, we solve them better. So the problem-solving brain has hardwired an emotional system saying, hey, look, I can solve this problem better if I'm with somebody else. And so this idea of affiliation, so achievement, power, and affiliation, feeling of belongingness, closeness, our brains reward us that, and we're always seeking it. It's a constant problem that we have, is this need for a sense of belonging. So whilst it's in technology, we're always focused on benefits, features, and in technology and what this site can do for you, what this gadget can do for you, what this service can do for you. A psychologist would say, well, actually, yeah, these are important, but look at the hardwired emotional psychological problems, the big three, APA, achievement, power, and affiliation, because they're just as important as the practical functional problems.
Mm. So, well, maybe we should start with our own problems. If I would say I'm feel a bit like a connected customer, there may be, on the one hand, of course, enough bad experience out there where I don't feel that achievement. I just have to think about my telecommunication provider. I don't feel much power.
Yeah.
Actually, there's no feeling of belonging. So maybe there are so many worst practices out there in this sense. Maybe give me an example of a company who does a good job in addressing customer type of customer like me.
But I think I believe it's Telefonica who are in O2 in the UK, a mobile operator. for the sense of achievement, they will always give existing customers the best deal. They don't say, hey, you know, we value you less as an existing customer than new customers who are just switching. If there's a new deal, they will give that deal. So you get this sense of achievement, say, hey, I'm with them. it's a smart company to be with, rather than not trying to screw me over, as so many, you know, we have this impression that, you know, telcos companies just suck because they want to get your money, and then once you've signed a contract, they will just try and wring you dry. And so this sense of, you know, I'm being smart, sense of achievement, I've made the smart choice, they're doing it right. Empowerment, if you look at, there's a mobile company called GiftGaff that's also run by Telefonica O2 over in the UK, that actually makes things cheaper for people by actually outsourcing the customer service to its members. There's no customer hotline to sort of phone to get, you know, if you don't know how to configure your cell phone, you actually phone other customers. And the more you help other people, the lower your prices. So it's a kind of a self-help group that helps in two ways. One, it empowers people. You get this feeling, hey, I'm not just a customer, I'm actually working as part of the company. You feel empowered. And then secondly, you get this sense of affiliation. It's a community. It genuinely is a community. People helping each other to get a better service and smarter mobile services. So I think just looking at how, you know, some telcos are doing it right, and GiftGaff, by, you know, if you look at the online boards, it's by no means perfect, but I think it's latched onto something quite important. This need for a sense that I'm getting a great deal. I'm got the sense of achievement, that it's an achievement. I'm empowered because I can do things I can't do elsewhere. I'm an empowered consumer, and I'm part of a community.
Mm-hmm. Now, maybe we could talk a bit about how disruptive companies work on that type of problem solving. For example, when I look at Nest, where I see that they really truly start to revolutionize the way I interact with a thing like a thermostat or something comparable, or even Uber, who transforms the experience, how I use transportation, and they even say they want to disrupt the whole logistics systems. How do they address this type of problem solving, and what are they doing different from other companies?
Well, I mean, how they do it internally, I don't know Nest's internal processes, but what I think both Uber and Nest and a whole new bunch of technology, which is bringing the kind of, there's a new, we call, you know, there's a C word. We call the C word in tech for this last year has been content, and it's been brands trying to be publishers, filmmakers, whatever, and so, hey, content is king. It's all about content, especially in the marketing sense. Hey, let's become a content marketing company. I think what these other companies, what Nest, what Uber, what a number of price comparison sites are doing, saying, actually, no, you got the wrong C. It's all about convenience. It's about convenience tech, and what both Uber and Nest do, they make things simpler and easier for people by using smart technology to make stuff that really is actually quite boring, whether hailing a cab or setting a thermostat, and they save people time and effort. And I think we've missed that trick when we're so used to thinking about when customers and consumers pay, it's all about money. But whenever you pay for anything in life, you pay in three different currencies. You do pay in money, but you also pay in time and effort. And the time and effort, the convenience value, is something I think that's gone missing. So I think whilst lots of people, you'll get talking about Nest and Uber, hey, it's all about experience design. It's all about having a great experience. I think, yeah, that's pretty and that's important. People want that ease of use and that delightful experience with the interface, but ultimately underneath it, it's all about saving people time and effort. And I think that's what Uber and Nest and other smart technologies where they're successful is they're focusing on this new area, this next big thing in digital tech, which is going to be convenience tech.
Yeah, yeah. So in this context, of course, we're talking about the internet also getting more invisible and maybe also less engaging, since if convenience is the most important things, of course, for example, I don't want to make all the settings for my smart home. I want the smart home, in the ideal world, to know that I'm coming back home, and maybe 5 minutes or 30 minutes before I drive into my garage, go up with temperature.
I agree, but I think that's where I think the psychology of it becomes important. So I think, yes, you want the best technology. And if you look at the iPad's ad for Apple, and they come out and say the best technology there is invisible technology. It just enables you to do stuff that you couldn't do. If the internet was perfect, we wouldn't see it. It would be completely invisible. And I buy into that. But I think that smart technology has to look out is if we go back to the APA, that there is a sense of the notion that you are in control, the notion of power, and we don't want to feel as if we become slaves to the machine. And so there needs to be a sense of empowerment. So I think what smart technology needs to do is something that was done to make cake mixes back in the mid 20th century successful. When they first invented cake mixes, these mixes you put in water and milk and you put it in the oven and you get the cake. It's a pre-mixed cake mix, pre-mixed thing. What they realized is that people at that time, housewives, didn't like it because it was like took control out of them. And so it was like, well, it's just this mix. I'm not adding any value. I'm not empowered. It's just I'm just taking the stuff out of the packet and putting it in the oven. And so what they did is they created that which is completely useless, the idea that you had to add an egg into the recipe. And that turned it from being something that was completely, I'm just a robot moving from A to B. It became a creative act. You did make the cake because you added that completely useless, completely redundant egg into the egg mix. But psychologically, it was super important because it empowered the consumer. So I think the challenge for smart technology is, make our lives easier. Convenience tech, yes, is the future, but do it in a way that consumers feel, or people still feel they have control and power, because that sense of empowerment, that sense that I have the power rather than the machine has the power, is absolutely key.
Maybe this is also that kind of ambiguous feeling you get when you go into that self-quantifying type of living, where you work with your Fitbit. Next thing will be that you wear underwear which can measure and signal heartbeat, etc. Maybe you go to the toilet and afterwards your pH. So this might give you control, but you lose on the other side control since that type of smart objects gets between you and your body.
Yeah, and I think the whole quantified self is you take some of the meaning out of it for people. I think some of it's not just about a numbers game, and so knowing the pH value of your urine is important and actually could solve a lot of problems. But I think this idea that we need to ward off the idea that it's the machine that is controlling you. Because imagine if you had the pH value, that was then sent to your doctors, that was then sent to the information was then sent remotely via the internet to your insurance company, and you find, oh my God, my pH value is too high or too low. My health insurance contributions have just doubled because something analyzed my urine. You can think the whole idea of privacy, and privacy is about power. It's about having control over what you do and when you do it. And I think one of the challenges for the quantified self movement is it should always feel empowering for the self, but you've got to keep that control for the individual rather than let third parties actually have that control.
So maybe let's talk a bit about how to discover problems, since now what we see, of course, is that our whole life will be more and more maybe changed through smart objects, which come into the way we live, the way we drive, the way we work. What's your recommendation to companies who are not in this business and now they have to discover problems? How do they? How should they do problem audits, as you say?
I think people are smart. People are not dumb, and so I think just simply asking people who use the category, what are the problems that they face? So what are the problems that they're trying to solve when they buy a product? What, importantly, are the problems that they solve when they switch from one product to another? So what's driving the lack of satisfaction? So actually just running a problem audit with category users. Now, tech people say, hey, we're creating this new category. It's something brand new, so how can we talk to customers because they don't exist yet? But if you have a problem focus, the problem that your product is trying to solve, people already be trying to solve it, be using other products, other categories. So if you have a problem focus, look at how people are trying to solve the problem that you are trying to solve, currently using other technology, and understand what works, what doesn't, what could be better, how could it be solved more frequently and more easily, and then focus, once you run that sort of very simple exercise, just simply asking the people who use these things, what are the problems? You'll get a mountain of insight. I mean, the average, it's away, so the 88 rule. So if you ask company leaders, whether it be tech leaders or so, do their products deliver a superior service compared to the competition? 80% will say, yes, they do. Our products are the best in market. If you actually ask consumers of those products, or users of those products, or clients of those products, only 8% said. There's a massive difference between what we think internally and what the actual market thinks. So simply just asking the market, hey guys, what's your problem? What are the problems? And looking at it more broadly than technology focus, have a problem focus. Look at the problem you're trying to solve. Once you've done that, then you can call in sort of mad people like myself, psychologists, who say, actually, it's, there's a lot of stuff that people have problems but they can't articulate them themselves. They aren't aware of these problems, and they'll cite, I use motivational psychology, so I will cite the APA that actually, what people want is a sense of achievement. They want a sense of empowerment, a sense of affiliation. So those are 3 perennial problems that, on top of solving practical problems, any tech should solve. And so actually running a focus group or running interviews with consumers or industry leaders and experts, saying, okay, so let's just think about the idea of achievement. When you're using this product, where are the points? Where do you get this buzz saying, yeah, I've done it, that's right, it's worked for me? And so you'd run through the APA things and actually look at the category through those 3 psychological lenses of achievement, power, and affiliation. And then finally, a lot of the stuff, to go back to the nest thing, what pretty much any psychologist will say to you is, actually, a lot of the times when we do stuff, it's actually not to solve a problem of a practical problem, or even an emotional internal problem. It's to solve a social problem. It's to look good. It's to look good in front of other people. Why are we paying sort of 5 times, 6 times as much for Nest? Because it looks pretty and it gives me bragging rights. It's, hey, I've got this smart thermostat. So you say in parentheses, hey, I use smart technology. I'm smart. Look at me. And then you see the whole of new selfie culture for the connected customer. A lot of it is about managing their own image online by saying, hey, look, aren't I smart? And so the bragging rights you get with technology by having technology that looks good and that signals that they are attractive, desirable, great people, you get bragging rights, is really important. And so I think when a problem audit, you also look at the social dimension. It's like, does this product give people bragging rights? Does it give them the right to show off? Is it a show-off product? That badge value is really important for not just new tech, any tech and any brands. We use brands, we have branded products, not always because we think they're going to be better quality, which is the original reason why we have brands. Back from the days we used to brand cattle, say it was a quality bit of meat, you were getting a quality bit of cattle. It's the home of branding. But we also do it to brand ourselves, to signal to others, hey, we are cool, I'm cool, I'm a great person, I'm an attractive person, I'm a desirable person. And a lot of branding is about the show-off value. I think what tech for a long time missed out was that social dimension. We used to buy computers in horrible, it's the worst color you could ever get with that horrible PC tower that looks like some kind of off-vomit, gray, browny, horrible color. And we were just really bad at it. And Apple got it. It's stuff that is good and makes you look good. It's about doing stuff that works, making it easy, empowering people, but it's got to look good as well. And I think what Nest and Uber are doing are helping people look good around in their social circles.
So this is what you mean by impression management, yeah? And the display value which I get from that type of new product should be a important thing if I'm, for example, a producer of heating systems and look at problems people might envisage when they try to deal with those stupid products. And now I'm looking how to make them smart. Display value is important, yes?
Yeah, I think it is, because it's one of the fundamental motivations we have to manage, because affiliation is one of our core psychological needs. We need to look good to others, we need to attract allies, and we need to attract mates. And so it's about signaling. We're signaling through the products we use, through the clothes we wear, the technology we adopt. We're signaling who we are to others, saying, hey, come and be with me. I'm a cool kid, or I'm a cool guy, or I'm a nice person. And so we're actually communicating. We're signaling our personality to others to say, hey, look at me. Be with me, because we want to be with people. We're born alone, we die alone. We spend most of the time in the middle trying not to be alone. And we do that through the technology and products we use, and we want to look good.
Now, of course, there is, when you market products in this new area of internet, you have to address the unconscious mind. You call it System 1. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think if you looked at, if you go to a lot of marketing and even technology conferences, I was one yesterday in Frankfurt, and people, this myth saying, was there life before Daniel Kahneman in marketing and in innovation? Daniel Kahneman is one of the few psychologists to ever have won a Nobel Prize. And basically he says that, yeah, we've got a problem-solving mind. The psychology, yes, the brain is all about solving problems, but actually, problems are so important that the brain has evolved two problem-solving systems. It's like as if each of us have two minds. We have a system, one mind, which is really fast. It can solve problems really fast. It does it heuristically. That means we work on intuition. Something looks right. It feels right. It's based on gut feeling. And it's your emotions and your sense data coming back. You see something, you think, that just doesn't look right. Or, hey, that looks right. That's the one for me. And we do it through, rather than through thinking things through, we do it on an instinctive, automatic way based on little rules of thumb, subconscious rules of thumb that make things say, yeah, that's the right one for me or that's the wrong one for me. It's not about logical thinking things through in a very rational engineering type process. And then he calls this fast intuitive mind the system one mind. And he says, but we also got this, gratefully and thankfully, we've got this system two mind, which is slow and deliberative, and will think things through. Well, I've got a problem, and it will solve a problem by thinking consciously through, logically looking at, searching for solutions, weighing up, am I going to buy this one or that one, or am I going to use this, am I going to use that, how am I going to solve my problems? And we think it through logically, rationally to the capabilities we've got. And what Kahneman said in his most recent book, the best-selling book, Thinking Fast and Slow, is that it's the system one mind that actually dominates most of our behavior. The problem is with marketing, we try to appeal, and innovation, we try to appeal to the system two mind, very rational mind that sat behind and looking at almost like doing a spreadsheet evaluation of what to buy and what to buy. In real life, it doesn't work like that. You don't go around supermarkets, you don't even go to tech stores. We don't work like that. We're actually based on our own hunches, our own emotions. And so the challenge for innovation is to actually to look at how this system one mind, how intuition works, how we intuitively solve problems. And he's come up with a list of problems or ways, or sort of ways that our system one mind works. And it's about how things should feel right. So to take a practical example, when you're looking for a solution, you've got a problem, you go for the solution that doesn't necessarily logically be the right solution. It just feels right. And why does it feel right? Because it evokes all sorts of positive associations, whether it be nostalgia, memories. And if it evokes lots of positive associations, we're drawn to it. Our system one mind saying, yep, that's the one for me. Because the positive memories and positive emotions that we've had in the past evokes those are signals that actually something right happened in the past, so it's likely to happen again. So our system one might say go to that one because it evokes positive memories, positive emotions, positive situations in our mind, just through association. It evokes positive associations. It's got nothing to do whether the product's good or bad. It's because emotionally it just feels the right product because it evokes positive associations. So what it means for innovators is that we should be looking at what positive experiences people have had in a category or related to a category, and then try and build those associations into the design and experience of our product.
Do you have an example of a company in this arena of new digital lifestyle products where you say they are doing a good job, or even a worse example where you say, oh, no, it's just not the way it works?
Okay, so here's I think there's a good example. There's actually a department at university where I've done some research that it's called the QWERTYnomics department. And QWERTYnomics is QWERTY is the first 6 letters on an English language keyboard. And the QWERTY keyboard was actually invented to be a really bad keyboard. If you could invent the worst keyboard on the planet in terms of efficiency, in terms of being a good, efficient, effective keyboard, the worst one you could have come up with is the QWERTY keyboard. And why? Because they invented this keyboard back in the time when we had mechanical typewriters, and if you typed too fast, the keys would jam. And so they tried to invent a keyboard that was so bad it slowed people down by at least a third, because it made all the letters spread out so you'd be reaching on things. So it really is the worst keyboard ever. Now, from a logical System 2 perspective, you think, okay, well, come along and let's invent a new keyboard. And there's a Dvorak keyboard that was invented that just works brilliantly. You move, it's efficient. It's the most efficient keyboard ever. You can type, so nearly 1.5 times as fast on it just because the keys are laid out in the right place. And it was a complete and utter market failure. Nobody wanted to switch from the QWERTY keyboard to the Dvorak keyboard. But they should have done. If you're actually trying to use an efficient keyboard, that's what you should do. But our System 1 mind is really conservative. We like stuff that is consistent with stuff that we already do. So if we're already doing something, we don't want to change, and it's an emotional thing because what we've learned through our experience, and so we tend to stick with stuff that we know, and so we didn't adopt it because it's just too much. It's change. It's hard work. I've got to learn something new. Even if logically, rationally, everybody should be using the Dvorak keyboard and not the QWERTY keyboard. So the Dvorak keyboard is an example of an innovation that's all based on technology, all based on efficiency, all based on logic. And because it is a complete market failure.
So I thought more like an example from the now, from the present. But of course, we can go to the next subject, since. Maybe we can talk a bit more about the core personality trait of connected customer and how to address it with what you just put into the discussion, the APA model, etc.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, so I took an old example to go back to that simply because I don't think many, in my experience, tech companies and brands in general are looking at the world through a psychological lens. So they're not looking at things in terms of System 1, System 2 yet. I think there is all the opportunity for tech brands to start thinking System 1 and read Thinking Fast and Slow. You know, it's probably the most influential book on psychology that's been published in the last decade. You know, the guy's won a Nobel Prize for his thinking, and I think it's fundamentally about what we do as innovators, and thinking in terms of System 1, fast, intuitive thinking versus System 2, logical, rational thinking. And the reason why I didn't give any examples of companies doing it right is because I don't think many are yet thinking in those terms. So I think you've got a world to gain and nothing to lose by actually doing it. So I don't think there aren't that many of them. Your second question then was that you're moving on to this idea we were talking about before about it's all about signaling. It's not just about logical problems and practical problems. It's also about solving social problems. And the big social problem that we have in life is like, I need to look good to attract allies, and attract collaborators, and attract mates. And so a lot of what we do is signaling behavior. And so, you know, we buy a brand and we want to be seen with it. We always weigh, that's why brands have labels on the outside. They didn't have labels on the outside. They don't need to have. The only reason to have the label on the outside is to show other people. It's got nothing to do with the person owning the Apple things. Why, you know, the Apple has the Apple on it. You don't need to see the Apple on the back. It's a show-off value. But what psychology can bring to the party, because people know this is about conspicuous consumption, is that when people signal, they actually signal something about themselves. And we all have our own personalities, and everybody is individual, and everybody is their own person. But psychologists have identified 5 big psychological traits that determine your actual personality profile. And whilst we all share these 5 traits, and their openness, you know, how open you are to new ideas, and people like tech tend to be open to new ways of doing things, how conscientious you are, so how hardworking, how detail-oriented you are, how extrovert you are, whether you're extrovert, introvert, so whether you're an outgoing person, how agreeable you are, basically how, you know, you're a nice person to be around and be with, and then neuroticism, sort of how worried are you as an individual? Are you a worrisome individual? And it sounds negative, but it's also how much do you care about stuff. And so there's but these things, open, O-C-E-A-N, make up this word ocean. People talk about ocean as these 5 personality traits, that when we're signaling to others about ourselves, from a branding perspective, there is a psychological center of gravity, if you like, to signal on those dimensions, because those are the dimensions that matter to other people. So when I'm signaling through the brands, I might be signaling that, hey, I'm a really open guy, an extrovert. So you want an open extrovert type brand. So it's about branding the thing. So I think in terms of the signaling, there is, on top of the technology, the social problem that we're solving is about making the user look good. And so how do we make the user look good? Well, it's going to be different for different people. But if we start thinking in terms of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism as the dimensions of brand personality, we can actually really connect with people and help them solve their problem of effectively promoting themselves, doing impression management, managing the impression others have of us.
So, if I get it right, on those 5 dimensions, when you work on those 5 dimensions, does this always mean that you are the most openness company, the most extroverted company, the most agreeable company, or is it more like form a character, a unique personality?
I think from a branding perspective, what you want to do is not try and, brands are not people, and it's like, we learned that with social media marketing. If it doesn't have a face, it shouldn't be on Facebook. Brands are not people. You can't have they're just labels. If you get real, they are labels. However, brands are incredibly important from a signaling perspective. So what brands shouldn't be doing, so Apple shouldn't be doing, saying, hey, we want to be sort of a 10 on openness and a 5 on conscientiousness, and trying to create their own character, their own personality. I think what makes more sense is to choose one of the dimensions that we as individuals will want to communicate about our openness, our conscientiousness, our extroversion, and build your brand around that. Be the extrovert brand. So be the kind of the BMW versus the Lexus, so, sort of more introverted brand, or be the sort of open brand, sort of the BMW Mini versus in the US a kind of a Buick, which is doesn't communicate openness. So I think it's about choosing one of them and solving people's problems, which is what technology is all about, and how you brand technology about. Choosing one of those dimensions and communicating and branding your product around it. So if you decide, hey, we're going to be the extrovert brand, then everything should be around the traits we associate with extroversion: fun-loving, smiling, happy, all those things. And you build an association map around people who are extrovert, and you try to build that into your brand, into how you design, into the user and into the user experience.
Since we are in that context, how do you analyze then the brand of Tesla, for example? They really do have some super fans, even people who are not driving Tesla, which always makes me smile. And way or another, Elon Musk is like a star for those type of people. How do you,
I think, it's interesting you mentioned Tesla, because one thing, just to have kept it simple, I've just talked about Ocean, these openness, consciousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, these big 5 psychological personality traits that, from a branding perspective, if branding is also about solving problems, we should be communicating on. There is a 6th one that is actually as important, that is general, and that is intelligence. That is about being smart. Your IQ is actually a predictor of a lot of things, including people, who you're going to mate with and who you're going to be with. People like to be around people who have a similar level of intelligence. So we signal our smartness, our intelligence. And so I think what Tesla's doing so right is signaling, I am smart. I realize the gas guzzler. I'm part of the future. So it's about showing off. It's still about saying, hey, it's about status. It's about status consumption or conspicuous consumption. I am buying a Tesla to show off to others that I am a smart person. I'm smarter than the average Joe. And it's just, in the times, in previous times, you might have worn a Rolex. Now we'll buy a Tesla. The status of status is changing, but it's still about communicating on this sense, your actual smartness, your intelligence. Which is why people talk, rather than ocean, they also talk I-ocean. General intelligence, your IQ, say, I'm a smart consumer. It's something you want to signal, because that makes you attractive to other people. Because if you're smart, you're a better problem solver, and so I want to be around you as a smart person. And so you become attractive for both allies and for mates.
Okay, that's
you're just saying, hey, I'm smart.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. Cool idea about how to think about that phenomenon. So actually, would you agree that that type of let's call it Tesla type products is the new luxury? So digital gadget in a certain sphere are a type of luxury to really show off. I'm a smart person.
I was at Frankfurt. I was talking about this yesterday at a sports marketing conference. But yes, it's still about. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. You're exactly right. Whereas before, I think conspicuous consumption, i.e. showing off this badge value, this show-off value for the brands and products we choose, was all about consuming, saying, hey, I'm me, and so I've got money, I've got wealth. It's about showing off your own wealth through what you consume. What we're seeing now across marketing and in general is that conspicuous consumption is not enough. What we're seeing in luxury goods is what we need is to move from what we're seeing is a move from conspicuous consumption to conspicuous compassion. Actually looking good and doing good. You know, you buy the Tesla, you don't just get the girl, you save the world. So it's about getting the girl and saving the world. It's all still about showing off and my penis is bigger than your penis kind of thing. So it's all still that show-off thing. And it would be foolish to say that Tesla isn't in that game. It's about luxury. It's about show-off value. But at the same time, just that show-off value its own, this consumption of saying, hey, I'm rich, sleep with me effectively, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't cut it. We need to actually do good. It's about looking good and doing good. And so you're seeing in the world of marketing, joining up with actually saving the world, doing stuff that is good for people, good for communities, good for society. So I think we're moving from quite a brash, conspicuous consumption to conspicuous compassion. So the status today is like it's better to have a green recycling bin than a Rolex watch. It's still all about status. It's still about saying, say, be with me or sleep with me. It's all about showing off. But at the same time, it's also, there's this added element. It's about doing it in a smart way that also saves the world. So Tesla, I think the genius of Tesla, it's about get the girl and save the world. And you do the two. And I think that's the future of luxury goods.